شكرا لكم الزملاء.
What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of CryptoZombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having an excellent day. Hope you have your moon boots strapped in because Bitcoin just had a beautiful, beautiful bounce off the 2.618. You can see right here, if we actually zoom into this, right, you can see how beautiful of a bounce, guys. This is amazing for Bitcoin. And not only that, but there is something happening right now on chain for Bitcoin that has only ever happened 5 times before in Bitcoin's history, and every single time it has happened, Bitcoin has had a massive move, and in all of these cases, the move has been to the upside, and there's something else that's happening right now that is coinciding with this data on chain. So does this mean that Bitcoin is setting up for a massive, massive move? Well, not only do we have that happening on chain, but something happening right now with the US, which is absolutely incredible for the future of Bitcoin, the future of the network, as well as the future of the USA being involved in Bitcoin mining. And finally, Donald Trump has come out and issued a warning against Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And in today's video, I'm going to explain to you exactly why he is wrong. So if that sounds good to you, you know what to do. If you're not subscribed, definitely stick around. Today's video is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of videos, a lot of cool things to watch. Stick around to the end and make sure you turn on the bell notifications. Some people are telling me that they're not getting notified about these videos. Just tap the little bell icon. You guys know where it is. It's usually right below the video. So without further ado, let's dive in and let's have a look. Now you can see that Bitcoin has had a beautiful, beautiful bounce, not only off the Fibonacci level, but also off right here where we did have this legacy trend line. And you can see right here that Bitcoin is looking to move higher. Now, you can see that we do have a lot of resistance, but Bitcoin is being resilient. It's pushing through, okay? It pushed through the downward sloping resistance. It's actually testing that right now as support. It pushed through the heart line, and it's trying to break the bottom of this level, which was acting as multiple resistance points right here. And if we break out of this level, and that's sitting right around $49,000, well then, my friends, I will tell you that I do believe Bitcoin is going minimally to 51,600 and will most likely top out somewhere around 54,000 before maybe having a little cool off. And I told you guys, if we get above that $55,000 level, then for me, I say we're back in it 100%. Bull runs on, forget the double bottom. We are going to the moon. So if Bitcoin, like I said, breaks out of that $49,100 level, then guys, that could potentially be an amazing opportunity to long Bitcoin. You can definitely make a lot of money by longing and shorting, although I do prefer longing. And if you don't know how to do that, make sure that you watch the tutorial popping up above. And we also have over $8,000 in bonuses. Check that out. Make sure you use the links in the description so you can get those bonuses. And you can see right here, not only are we breaking above that downwards sloping trend as well as breaking out of the falling wedge, but you can see we also have had the resistance here, the resistance here, the resistance here. And if I actually zoom into Bitcoin, you could see right now, guys, can you see what we are doing? Can you see what we are doing? Yes, we had this little fake out right here, but right now we are trying to break out of that because this is the most important thing, is that we're breaking out of all those resistances. And the other thing we need to talk about is that the S&P is potentially looking to put in a new all-time high. And as you can see over here, like Bob Lucas said, if stocks make another all-time high, lights out rally to March, metals, forget about them, come back, forget gold, Bitcoin close above 50K, we're going straight to 60K. And if you don't believe me, listen to what Brian Kelly had to say about this correlation.
So, my world that I look at every day is Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And so when I look at that, and as Bitcoin gets more institutionalized, it is starting to get more correlated with the traditional markets. So look at, this is, Bitcoin versus the NASDAQ. The 30-day rolling correlation of Bitcoin and the NASDAQ index is about 47%. That's the highest correlation we have seen since September, when the NASDAQ and Bitcoin bottomed. And then finally, you look at these and they're basically trading in lockstep. So let's take a look at the chart here, right? We have Bitcoin versus the NASDAQ. You can see they trade in lockstep, except for, notice, Bitcoin tends to lead the NASDAQ. Usually about 5 to 10 days or so, Bitcoin trading tends to lead. What do we have over the weekend? We had Bitcoin break out from a relatively short-term range. So I'm looking at this and saying, okay, as more institutions come in, they're using it as a pro-cyclical risk-on inflation hedge. If that's the same thing that the NASDAQ is getting and Bitcoin starting to tick up, then it's reasonable to assume that as long as this correlation holds, that maybe the NASDAQ has bottomed here. And as we look into Q1 of 2022, we're going to get a bottom in both Bitcoin and the NASDAQ, and they may trade higher together.
And why I agree with BK that if you look at those charts, even look at the September pullback in the triple Qs, it was a case where I'd make the argument that Bitcoin led that. And there's different reasons. BK pointed out the institutional adoption. I do think that in general, we are assessing some of Bitcoin's moves over the last couple of years is not just the secular trend that I think continues that BK's talked about and was on very early.
Not only that, but we have the Bitcoin NVT signal, which has only ever happened it's only ever happened 4 times. I did say 5 times. It is happening right now for the 5th time. But every single time that it has happened, you could see that essentially it signals that the markets are oversold. Now, we don't get this very often, but every single time we do, look what happens, guys. Massive rally, massive rally. Look, this one was even in a downtrend. We were in a downtrend right here. Massive rally, okay? This called the absolute bottom for the COVID crash. We got the signal all through here. The signal closed right at the bottom of the reaccumulation. And right here again, my friends, you can see we are having this signal. So, Bloomberg Intelligence senior commodity strategist Mike McGlone, while he described oil as being in a bear market, considers Bitcoin as being in the exact opposite situation, describing the asset as being in an enduring bull market. So while acknowledging the current state of affairs, he does think that Bitcoin will continue to do what it has always done before climbing to 100,000 next year, which will be the key plateau. He says that the price floor is 45,000. He says for signs of weakness for a technical guy, you need to sustain below 45,000. And to me, that is unlikely. In fact, he expects Bitcoin to rally upwards towards $70,000 in the short term. And if we just have a look at this graph by Izzy over on Twitter, you can actually see if we use Metcalf's model, Bitcoin is looking for 49,000 maybe by the end of this year, potentially, or by the end of next year, but 2025, 135, 2030, 400,000 Bitcoin. And this may even be a little bit of an underestimate, right? He says the Bitcoin market price is implying that the market is assuming user growth at about 4.6 years out. But, my friends, Donald Trump does in fact have an issue. What does he not like? Well, let me play this video for you right now.
What do you think about crypto? Because, New York and Miami is really getting cryptocurrency into their financial system.
Well, I never loved it because I like to have the dollar. I think the currency should be the dollar. So I was never a big fan, but it's building up bigger and bigger, and nobody's doing anything about it. And I know it so well. Look, I want a currency called the dollar. I don't want to have all these others, and that could be an explosion someday, like the likes of which we've never seen. It'll make the big tech explosion look like baby stuff. I think it's a very dangerous thing.
Now, guys, I have been saying for the longest time, Gersham's law, bad money drives out good money. If you had the option of choosing, you're not going to spend, if you had a $100 grocery bill and the grocer said, well, you can either give me this $100 bill or you can give me $100 worth of Bitcoin, I'll accept both. Which one would you choose? I would choose the dollars because the dollars are good units of exchange, right? But Bitcoin is the store of value, and it doesn't actually technically really compete with the dollar. It is sort of in its own class, and you can actually see Natalie Brunell. She was over on Fox, and she had this to say as well.
Dorsey predicting that the cryptocurrency will one day replace the dollar. Natalie, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Your reaction to Bitcoin replacing the dollar?
No, I actually disagree with Jack on this one, at least for now. Bitcoin is universally acknowledged as digital property, and it's a long-term store of value. So I think it should be thought of as an asset as opposed to a currency because, the U.S. dollar is actually a good medium of exchange. It's good for spending rather than saving. So Bitcoin doesn't really threaten or replace the dollar in the same way that gold doesn't replace or threaten the dollar and real estate doesn't threaten the dollar. It's digital property that I really view as this sort of supercharger that you plug your dollars into because your dollars are losing purchasing power in this inflationary environment. And with Bitcoin, you're essentially filling them back up with monetary energy for the long run. I think that there's so much happening within the Silicon Valley space and things moving into crypto. I do think that there are solutions looking for problems and people looking for easy money, whereas Bitcoin is this truly decentralized protocol. It has no VCs backing it, and it's trying to fix the problem with our central banks and what the government is essentially doing with our money instead of papering it over with fiat, and driven a lot by young people. right? That were left out of the traditional system because their future was mortgaged. And we have so much debt right now that Washington is essentially raising the debt ceiling and paying our Visa with our MasterCard to just keep the ship afloat. So young people are sort of opting out in every which way. And crypto feels the most capitalistic. It feels the most inclusive, the most accessible, being that hard money solution and a savings technology for the working person like Bitcoin. But, you know, sometimes you just sit back and you say, study Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. But that's like telling people to, you know, do something as simple as eat right and exercise. And a lot of people don't want to do that. But, you know, I agree with President Trump that I want the dollar too. I just want Bitcoin to be the store of value.
Not to mention the fact that one of the most significant projects in the history happening right now, this is happening in Houston. We have the carbon neutral computing service Lancium announced that they are planning to spend $2.4 billion over the next 20 years to construct a large-scale renewable energy facility. And what are they going to use this for? Well, in particular, it will help establish the area as a significant source of renewable energy and a host for Bitcoin mining and other energy-intensive activities. The news follows former South Carolina candidate John Warren, who launched a new Bitcoin mining company dubbed GEM Mining on December 15th. The firm is expected to become the biggest mining organization in the state of South Carolina amid an ongoing drive by numerous states in the United States to expand the cryptocurrency industry. Guys, this is huge. This is massive. And if you still need to be convinced, I will end today with this amazing interview from Jack Mallers.
So Jack Mallers is back with us, the CEO of Strike. A few technical issues here, and Jack, you are still in the hot seat. So we do get to talk about El Salvador after all. Talk to me about what Strike is doing there.
So again, Julia, Strike optimizes around this thesis that we now have a global instant free monetary network for the world. El Salvador is an emerging market. It's a developing country. And you're talking about a place where 70, not 17% of their citizens don't have a bank account. They don't have access to any monetary network. They're still living on a cash standard like we were 50 years ago. Right. And so what we want to do is make this monetary network accessible to them, give them an access to high quality of life, basic human freedoms to where the Cash Apps and the Venmos that we're so privileged to here, they don't have access to that, and make this monetary network extensible to them because a very important point, it's the most inclusive monetary network of all time. It works the same here in this closet as it does in El Salvador. That's a very, very positive and helpful concept to understand. That does not vouch the same for Venmo, like I said. So that's our goal, is to make this monetary network extensible, usable, and helpful to people that need it most.
I mean, I think that's the allure of cryptocurrencies in general, whether you're talking about Bitcoin or some of the others. It's borderless, it's global, no single nation has jurisdiction or oversight, for better or for worse. And that's also at times a challenge too. But just in light of the conversation that we've just had, what role really, beyond just saying, OK, you can go ahead and allow this and people can create or have their own wallets and exchange, does the government need to play? Because, you know, I spoke to the chief of the IMF and she was like, just because something's possible doesn't make it a good idea in terms of making Bitcoin legal tender. Does the government even need to do that, Jack? Give us your wisdom.
Listen, well, let me actually simply no. Another very powerful concept, Julia, is that the Bitcoin network, it's an open network. Julia, in the same way that Google could not do anything for the rest of the year and they'd be a better company come January 1st, 2022. How? Because everyone else around the world is making the internet better, and every new website that joins the internet makes Google a more valuable company. So if they wanted to, they could just sit on their hands and continue to appreciate in their value proposition because they're in an open network that is the internet. Bitcoin is the same thing. If the government of El Salvador doesn't want to do anything ever again, you know who's making Bitcoin better and their financial infrastructure better? Myself, Jack Dorsey, Twitter now all of a sudden, developers all over the world. So they don't have to, but they want to. Why do they want to? It's because they now have access. They don't have to ask permission from any central body, from any counterpart. They have access to a monetary network that acts in their best interest and a monetary asset that acts in their best interest. You're talking about an emerging market that gets absolutely crushed by the expansion of monetary supply at central banks. So if I'm a government and my job is to provide a high quality of life to my citizens, there's really no other project I should frankly be spending my time on. So do they have to? No. Should they? Arguably, I think so. I think their efforts in Bitcoin are brave, and I'm very supportive of what they're doing.
Yeah, it's an alternative when there's a lack of trust in institutions and when you have great volatility and depreciation in your currency anyway, which is why I think sort of certain nations are looking at this and other nations are far slower to react because they sort of have the luxury or the control of not having to worry so much. And there's going to be criticism of me saying that, I think, from certain quarters, because I know there's criticism of the US dollar and monetary policy here. Jack, you mentioned this at the beginning of our conversation, and I do think it's really important. How does any of this tie to the value of cryptocurrencies? Because I do think we have to talk more and more about cryptocurrencies and the volatility and the price changes that we see there and sort of dissociate that or in some way understand the value of the underlying technology and what that represents too. How does the value of Bitcoin change or not change what you're doing?
So it's actually a very interesting point. Internally at Strike, we make a divide between Bitcoin, the asset that is typically priced in dollars, and Bitcoin, the network that we deem revolutionary and disruptive to existing monetary networks like a Visa or like a PayPal. And so if Bitcoin was $100 or if Bitcoin was $100,000, I can still get money from here to Japan instantly and at no cost and not even allow the consumer to be aware that I'm using Bitcoin under the hood. So we're unaffected and the network is going to disrupt the world no matter what the Bitcoin price is. Bitcoin, the asset, I expect to go well into the six figures this year. And that's because it is the only asset in human history that we've designed from scratch. We engineered it to be perfect. And so I expect it to appreciate against a global macro environment that's quite frankly, absolutely chaotic and asinine. But we think of them as separate technologies and disruptive and innovative in totally different ways.
Okay, we've already talked about this, but I need you to reiterate it. And we've got about 30 seconds. The foreign exchange risk, the volatility in the price of Bitcoin, if you're trying to convert to dollars at any given point, why is that not important? Why does that not a pain point? Why is that not a pain point?
Yeah, so let's walk through a 30-second example.
I know, sorry.
No, it's okay. Don't apologize. We got this. Money coming in from Japan. We are going to take the Japanese yen, live convert it, zip it to Bitcoin. That's Bitcoin's going to get to this closet instantly and for free, and we're going to convert it to dollars. Julia, all that took 1 second. And so we're willing to take price volatility worth 1 second for that level of disruption. That's not a problem. And that type of balance sheet risk is nothing compared to the services you use today. So it comes easy, Julia, comes easy.
So that's it for me, guys. That's all I got for you. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you're just excited about the future of Bitcoin the same way that I am. And of course, if you are looking to trade this breakout, which it does look like we might be looking to have that, make sure that you definitely check the links below in the description. And if you've never traded before, watch these videos. They'll go over everything from A to B. This is a full-scale walkthrough on all the different platforms. Until next time, stay crypto. My name is K-Dub, and of course, peace out.